Welcome to the Failure to Stop podcast, the #1 show where police meets society and culture. If you like today's content, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Today we're talking about the San Antonio PD officer involved shooting at the McDonald's on Sunday, October 2nd at about 10:45 p.m. I'll just go right off the bat. We'll just start right here. Not seeing a lot of things that the officer did right. We'll talk about one thing that he did mediocre, but for the most part, I do not believe that this is a good shoot, and I'm going to tell you why. But first, UPP, roll that beautiful bean footage. Let's take a look at the incident.
3230, go into the way over there with 3161. It's going to be off of 11700, blank over to the McDonald's. And 3161, you want a running code?
10-4. License plate. Get out of the car.
What? Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired!
Earlier, you got a return on it right now.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
Let's break it down. This is a probationary officer, not a probation officer, but a rookie officer on probation. And what does that mean really quickly? You go to the academy, you go to field training where you're with a field training officer, and then you're on a probationary status. It's kind of like if a bird leaves the nest, he can come back to the nest, until the bird is finally big enough and mature enough to go make its own nest. This police officer is in that he can leave the nest, but he's got to keep coming back to the events. He's still under heavy evaluation. He's on a probationary status. The department can choose to move him back into training or put him back with a training officer. So he's not all the way on his own yet, although he is operating in the field by himself. So he is a very rookie officer, and he's going to make a catastrophic rookie mistake in this case. Obviously, this young officer did not listen to my first video that I ever made on YouTube, on the Failure to Stop YouTube channel, which was 5 tips on how to be a good cop, because my one tip on there, I talk about the 2 words that will save your career. If you do this every time. Now, I had to learn this the hard way too, because I was a young gunning rookie just like this. I just got lucky, and I had people around me that kept me lucky, or that kept me trained enough not to fuck something up as catastrophically bad as this. But it's these words, these 2 words can save you almost every time. And that's THINK, think, SAFETY, 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 safety. If this officer would have taken 1 minute when he arrived on scene to say those things, it would have completely had a different outcome on this case. Now, I think it is important to talk about the time and date. The time is 10:45 p.m. The date is October 2nd, which is a Sunday. And why is that important? Because anytime we're going to break down a case objectively, we need to look at the timestamp. We need to look at the totality of the circumstances. Now, if this is at a shotgun house at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, well, then there's different things that are going to play into the mindset of a young police officer that are going to matter when it comes taking this to court. Okay, but in this case, there's nothing unreasonable about being at a McDonald's at 17 years old on a Sunday evening at 10:45 at night. Number 2, the officer is investigating a totally different crime at the McDonald's. There's a disturbance that's completely unrelated to this vehicle. So the vehicle isn't even a part of the 911 call. All right, so the officer gets to the McDonald's at 10:45. He takes care of the disturbance call, and he notices a vehicle that was involved in a felony flee to elude a couple of days prior. And I do believe the officer, when he says that, he truly believes that this car is that vehicle. This is a maroon, newer model BMW with some aftermarket parts on the back. And so it does look like a very fast car, and it does look like a memorable car. If this car ran from you, it's one of those cars you would remember, especially those little aftermarket tinted brake lights, and as well as the tinted windows on the vehicle. But either way, that doesn't mean that you get to just pull out your smoke wagon and get to work on somebody. Had this officer taken my advice by saying THINK, think, SAFETY, 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 what he would have done is said, okay, that looks like a car that ran from me a couple of days ago. And if we think critically about that, it's probably going to run from us again. Let me walk over here, grab my police vehicle. I'm going to pull my police vehicle behind that vehicle. And that kind of mitigates, that kind of lessens the opportunities or the chances that this vehicle might be able to back up and get out of the way. It takes one avenue of approach or an avenue of escape away from the driver. Then we can put on our blue lights and sirens that indicates that this is going to be a traffic investigation. And now we can approach this vehicle and we can do it just a little bit safelier. Doesn't matter. But this cop doesn't do any of those things. Instead, he goes, Leroy Jenkins! He walks right up to the vehicle. He rips the door open and he says, get out of the car. He doesn't announce himself, doesn't identify himself. He doesn't say, hey, Officer Brennan with the San Antonio Police Department, you're being investigated for a felony flee to elude. Step on out of the vehicle. Too easy. No, he rips the door open. Gentleman is eating a double quarter pounder with cheese is what it looks like. He looks up at the officer and the officer says, get out of the car. The kid says, why? And then the kid foolishly puts the car in reverse and backs up. And we'll talk about that here for a second. Now, I've got 4 children. I've taught all 4 of my kids, if you are approached by a police officer or a security guard, to submit to them. Whatever happens after that, we'll deal with in court. But I'd rather take the chances of you just submitting, going to jail, getting locked up for something you didn't do, whatever it is, than what could happen if you run from the police or, Lord forbid, you try to fight the police. But this kid didn't get that advice from anyone. In my opinion, it doesn't matter if he was a security guard, a fake security guard, or a fake police officer. You're at McDonald's at 10:45 with a whole bunch of people around. They're going to be witnesses. You've got a better chance of something good happening by just putting your hands up and being like, yo, what's going on? What do I need to do right now and figure this out? And it sucks for him. It's unlucky for him because he did this in front of the most high-strung and adrenaline-fueled rookie on the San Antonio Police Department. And this young rookie probationary officer pulls out his smoke wagon and gets to work. And the only thing that the officer did mediocrely good is put a nice tight shot group into that driver's side window. It was a nice shot. It was a good shot group. It was decent. Then the car backs up and is not trying to run the police over. He's trying to flee again, which again does not deserve the death penalty in this case. And the officer shoots at him as he's fleeing. Now, he's not fleeing in the marketplace. He's not fleeing in downtown while it's packed on a Friday night. He's not fleeing during the Macy's Day Parade. He's fleeing McDonald's that isn't overtly busy at 10:45 p.m. on a Sunday. So there's nothing that there's no reason to fill that thing up full of bullets at this point. But the cop puts another tight shot group in the back windshield. The car makes it a couple of blocks before pulling over. And that gentleman is an unknown condition at this time, but he's been shot multiple times. The female passenger, thankfully, was not injured in this. Now, I'm not going to say that the kid didn't have anything to do with it. The kid would have submitted to this officer. He would still be in better shape. I also like to bring up the race thing in here. The driver of this car was white. Had he not been white, we'd be burning down every city. We'd be marching on every city. So really kind of just goes to show that this isn't really about police reform. This isn't about defunding the police because it doesn't fit the narrative. That narrative, if this would have been a black person, it would have fit that narrative of let's go ahead and divide the country further into black versus white. But, when it comes to under the ruse of police reform, we can throw that right out the window because if there isn't another case out there right now that proves that we need more police training, better police training, more high intensity, less PowerPoint training, it would be this case. Police officers need to be stressed out in the academy. They need to be called names. They need to have the brakes beaten off of them with boxing gloves. That way, when you're in a scenario like this, you're not fueled by adrenaline and making stupid adrenaline-fueled mistakes, like putting a whole bunch of rounds at a 17-year-old who's just driving away in a very fast car after eating a quarter pounder with cheese. That's what I have. If you disagree with me or if you agree with me, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. If you think that this cop was justified, let me know. My opinion is, at this point, I don't think he's justified in this. I think there's a huge civil suit coming towards him, if not a legal suit, and I think a legal suit should follow through. This is a time when cops go to jail. You make a mistake this bad, you ignore your policies, you ignore your training to this degree, you have to go to jail for it, in my opinion. I don't know if he'll go to jail. We don't know what kind of lawyers he's going to have, but I think there's a legal battle ahead of him, and he has already been terminated and fired from the San Antonio Police Department. But I'd like to know what your take is. Is there something that he did here that warranted a shooting? I don't think, looking at it from 20,000 feet above, I don't think that the police officer's life was in any danger here. This is something a police officer could have stepped away and just let that guy leave. There wasn't any civilians that were inherently in any danger here. So I think this is a bad shoot from start to finish. The only redeemable quality that they have here is a nice tight shot group, but that doesn't justify any of this. And I think that the players in this, the victims in this, they win big. And that's unfortunate for all the law enforcement officers who are out there doing the right thing, who are THINKing, think, safety, safety, safety. For those of you who are out there thinking before you do things, thank you. But this does put a big negative mark on the San Antonio Police Department as well as law enforcement across the country. But I say it like I see it. And in this case, it's a bad shoot. and we'll just have to see what happens. Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, guys, guns up, giddy up.